only thing I'll ask is that we don't talk over each other, and so everybody can get a chance to ask questions and be heard. And if anyone has comments, if they would like to share something, please feel free to join in, and speak your mind. Um, so let me get started on the questions. A bunch of people asked about watch lists. So watch lists are under the tools, and they're actually very useful for filter formulas for using in filters. There are actually two types of watch lists. You have your own personal watch lists or my watch lists by clicking on the link up here under my watch lists, and there are shared watch lists. If I click that link, it moves over to shared, and there are a whole bunch of these that I maintain. Most of them are earnings related. I have them going back. I can probably clean some of these out because the more important ones are the forward earnings announcements. And excuse me, regarding earnings, I'm negotiating with a data vendor so that I can get. Right now, I'm basically scraping these off of Yahoo and a couple of other websites, but they're they're inconsistent. The data is spotty, and sometimes it's unreliable. So I'm contracting with a data vendor to get better data. Sounds like somebody just joined.
That's just me. I'm coming in also on the telephone in case I lose you on the internet.
Oh,
It's Mike
okay.
DeWalt.
Okay. Okay. Um, so let's see. So these are ones that I maintain myself, and you can see that the X's are grayed out. So I'm logged in as the support email, the support user. So that user doesn't own it, and you can't add anything to these shared lists. But there are lists for weeklies, everything that has weekly options, the S&P 500, um, equity ETFs, commodity ETFs. I'm not sure if these are really complete. I do my best to try to keep up with it, but they're adding ETFs every day. And then of course there are the earnings, and these are the ones that are most dynamic, especially the upcoming earnings announcements. And I'm working on the May announcements now. So those are the shared watch lists, and you can use those in a filter formula, and I'll show you how to do that in a couple of minutes. Then to create your own watch list, anybody can create as many watch lists as they have, and they can put whatever they want in it. So to create one, you click in the name box up here, and I'll create one called Filter Formula Workshop 1. And then I can click the add button or just hit enter. And now I have a new watch list, and I can start adding things to it. So maybe you want to add some stocks that you own, or something like that. One thing that I have on my own is what I call what do they call them, high cap or blue chip stocks. So I put Apple in there. So to add something on a watch list, you just type the symbol in and click enter, and then you're ready to go. Um, in the next release, or maybe the one after that, I'm going to have like a multi-add, so you can type in more than one symbol. So I would type in MSFT, and then Oracle, and then I could hit enter, and then it would add both of them instead of saying MSFT and then ORCL. So that would make it a little bit easier. You can also copy and paste from other watch lists. If I want to delete something, I'll just click the red X. So now let's say I want to copy some stuff over from, let's say, so let's go to the April earnings. If I click on a column header, it'll sort by date. So I can highlight things that have, let's say, that things that have had earnings announcements already in April. So if I click on a row that highlights it, then I hold the shift key down and use the arrow or the page down, and I can copy all of these things. I highlight these, then I'll click copy, and then I can go back to my watch list and click paste, and now it's adding everything in there. So you can move things around from one watch list to another and
Hmm.
copy things around.
Can that be done from an Excel spreadsheet?
No, no, not it cannot right now. I did have a an import feature that I just took out because nobody used it, and it was a little
Okay.
bit confusing the way it worked. I actually was using it to maintain the watch lists, the earnings lists, but I came up with an easier, more programmatic way to do it. So um, I was the only one using it, and I took it out. But if you think it's useful, then I can put it back in there and explain how to use it.
Is it a lot of work too? In other words, it would take a lot of explanation.
No, no. The thing about it is that the file had it was a CSV file, and it had to be in a specific format. Um, and it wasn't. I mean, basically, you just needed. The first column had the name of the watch list. The second column had the symbol. The third had the date and the event date, and the fourth, the optional one, had the notes field. You can put anything you want in these notes. I use for the earnings lists. I put in whether it's before the open or after the close. But you can put anything you want in there. I can say, you know, this is my note, and now I have a note in here. Um,
So if you had a text list, you could just paste that text list in there rather than entering them manually, right?
oh, you mean in the add field?
Yeah.
Yeah. Once I get the that multi-add uh, feature in there, I mean it's not hard to add. It's just something that has to go on on the development queue, and it'll
Oh, I
be
got you.
right. Um, so I have there's going to be a release coming out. I was hoping to do it this weekend, but for the interactive brokers, the link to interactive brokers. Um, but it's probably going to have to wait until next week because there's just a lot of issues with interactive brokers. I don't know. Does anybody use interactive brokers? I don't personally use them.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Do you like
In the
their
office.
interface?
I'm sorry?
Are you happy with their platform with how you interact with it?
Yes, I'm happy because I'm in Canada and it's the only broker that is giving all the features that interactive brokers give. The competition is very poor, I would say.
Oh, okay.
So maybe in the United States there are better platforms, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I'm using IB as well. Their commissions are really good. The platform is a little bit weird.
Okay.
It's not very intuitive, but I think their offerings and other things make up for it.
Yeah. Well, one of the issues that I'm having is the you can't really get all the market data out that I need. You have to if you have an account there, you have Trader Workstation open. I can connect to it, and you can execute, but um, they don't really publish all the market data that you can get in Trader Workstation out through their what they call an API,
Uh,
application program interface. Like specifically, I can't get the option volume, which is really
Oh, wow.
yeah. And they
yeah.
have it. They have volume and open interest, um, but that's only on the for a whole class of options. So I can get the total volume and open interest for the day, but that doesn't really help in the pricing sheet. You want to see, and on the chart, you want to see the graph of the volume. You want to see what options are trading. And then actually, now that
You've looked at.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, Thinkorswim has dropped their their other interface, and they've got a new interface that, and you can probably get more from them.
Well, yeah, that's another issue. I spoke to them. I think since TD Ameritrade took over, they don't like to let other programs in. It's very
Oh,
difficult. very difficult to get data out of them. Anyway, so the point was that I have this interactive brokers interface release coming out. So actually, maybe I can put the multi ad, the multi symbol uh, in there, so because it's going to be delayed a week because of the issues I'm having with them. So probably by next Saturday you'll have the multi ad in the field. I mean that was suggested by someone I did a demo for last week, so it was a good idea. So I'll put it in there. Um, let's see. Oh, and then speaking of open interest, I'll be integrating that from my data source soon. So we'll have on the pricing sheet, you'll have volume and open interest, and then on the graph, the volume graph, that'll also show open interest, so you can see, how volume versus open interest for the day, which I think is useful. Funny, Larry McMillan doesn't use open interest. I can't understand why. For some reason, he's not interested in open interest. I haven't really been able to get a good explanation out of him from that, but whatever. Um,
Greg, can we enlarge a little bit the window of Workbench?
okay,
Because the text is very little and it's difficult to read.
is that any better?
So, I,
I'm actually able to read everything fine on my screen.
okay.
Okay.
But I have a small screen. I have a 13-inch only, so
Oh,
that's the
okay.
reason.
Okay. Well, I made it
So,
full
so
screen. I wonder if can I? I thought I could zoom in. I thought there was
Ah,
a way to do
okay.
that.
I found something. All right. All right. That's better.
Okay.
so just one comment. When you record this and you render it, um, you probably should render it in a higher resolution, because one of the other recordings that I got, I couldn't read any of the stuff you were pointing to.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to save space on my YouTube channel, but I guess that's
I understand. Yep.
yeah. Okay. I'll when I render it, I'll render it as high a resolution as I can. Okay. Are there any questions about the watch list before I move on? No. Okay.
No, thank you.
Did someone have a question? No. Okay. Okay. So the filter formulas, I mostly use them in the spread profiles, but you can use them in the option profiles also. Um, I'll start with naked puts because it's usually how I start my day. I always like to look for volatility to sell. And uh, Barbara asked that this is not related to um, filter formulas per se, but do I sell volatility? Do I sell naked puts when the market is going down? And you know, it's kind of a double-edged sword because when the market's going down is when the volatility starts to go up, and you start getting more opportunities to sell volatility when it's higher. Um, so sometimes you got to sell volatility into a down market to take advantage of it. Um, when the market's going up, when it's safe, quote unquote, to sell naked puts, usually the premiums are pretty low because the volatility is low in a bull market. Um, so hopefully that answers your question, Barbara. And Barbara, if you dial in, you can talk. This is an interactive demo. It's not just listen only. Okay. So I have a bunch of filters here. Someone asked about creating new filters, and you can create any filter that you want. To create a new filter, um, you just come into the name box here, and I'll say workshop one filter. Hit enter, and now I've got the new filter. I can change the name of it too by typing in here. I'll call it Formula Workshop 1 filter. And then you start out with a blank screen. Okay, so that's probably a little bit confusing for a lot of people. I guess I kind of assume that uh, people who are trading options would be familiar with Excel and Excel formulas. Um, so the the formula language, I guess you'll call it, may be intimidating, but it's also that makes it very flexible. Um, so before I go ahead and start entering things, there was some echo on the line there. Um, each Someone was asking about the names of the columns. So if you move the cursor over the column headers, it gives you a little description of what's there, and then it says the filter formula, the filter field name, and it tells you what that name is, and that's the name that you would type into the formula. So that's one way to find the name, and then another way is to use the help screen, and this help is a work in progress. Oh, where's my help? Great. I got an error in the help. Oh, here we go. Okay. Um, so this gives you a list of all the different common properties and functions that you can use in a filter. Um, what the properties are of the specific one that we're looking at, and in this case, naked puts. So it gives you a name and a description of exactly what that is. Some of them contain some formulas as well. Somebody was asking about the ever probability in naked puts. I thought that was in here. Um, I guess not. Probability closing above. No, I guess I thought it was in here, but I guess it isn't. And then finally, on the bottom, this is the description of the data from the strategy zone um, that Larry has on the strategy zone. Okay, so to start out with, you want to start with so actually from a higher level, the purpose of a filter formula is to take this list of what we have here are 13,000 over 13,000 possible naked puts that were identified on the strategy zone, and make that whittle that down to a reasonable amount. Okay, so you want to using each of the columns, set up some criteria for that column and whittle it down to a reasonable number. So the way I usually start doing this is I just start with at a high level, and keep applying, and then apply the filter, and then put a new criteria in until I get down to a reasonable amount. So I'll start with, actually, if I come in here and I click the what I want to do is I want excuse me, the and expression means all the expressions inside the parentheses have to be true for the naked put to meet my filter criteria. Okay, so the first thing, let's say I like to do is I like to sell for the short term. So I highlighted the expression list inside the criteria, and then I'm going to click. Let's see, I want my days to be less than a certain amount, or less than or equal to, say, 45. So I can click less than or equal, and then my left operand is going to be days, which is here, and then 45. I'll type in there. So you can use this point and click kind of thing. That might be useful at first, but I usually just start typing, and it usually goes a little bit faster if I type. So the first thing I'll do is I'll just apply this and see what puts expire in 45 days or less. Okay, so now I've gone from 13,000 down to 2,500, a little bit more, which is a much more reasonable number, but still not reasonable enough. Um, so I can start adding some more criteria. Um, does anybody have any specific criteria that they like to use to look for naked puts, or um, I'm trying to draw people in and make this interactive. So,
I like the DBE sigmas, but I found different ways to use them a bit.
okay, I'd love to hear it. Let's.
Um, Let me just look at one of my formulas quickly. And
Okay,
it's nothing ingenious. It is, what did I use? Of course, it isn't showing right up. Everything just froze.
okay,
Okay, so one thing I put in is that I want, what is it, the initial divided by the point square? No, that isn't the one. I'm not finding it. Let me
okay.
see if I can just think of what it was that I was using.
Okay, the DBE sigmas, in case anybody is wondering, is the well. Let's. This is actually a new column that's actually not on the strategy zone. This is something that's added into Option Workbench. It's the number of standard deviations that the downside break even is below the stock price. Um,
Yeah, there's a lot of them that are very high numbers, though, which troubles me. In other words,
a lot of the
numbers like,
DBE sigma. Yeah.
yeah, like 44, 34.
Well, that means that either the strike is way out of the money, or um, the volatility is very low. The implied volatility. So it's based on the implied volatility of the option,
Right.
right? So you might want to say, okay, limit it to. So you want the DBE sigma to say, I want it to be. Let's just start with greater than one. Okay, so this
hmm
is a good example of how to. Here, let's also do a sort. Okay, so now let's say I want to sort by the DBE sigmas also. So I find DBE sigmas in that sort list, and this is in the order that the columns are in the table there. Click the add button, and then I'm going to change it to descending order. So now we have the highest DBE sigmas on top. Okay, and
hmm
here's one I guess that you're saying is kind of
Yeah, it's
high.
an impossibility. A
Yeah.
lot of them. What I was doing, I was just taking the stock price, I was dividing into that the strike price, and I wasn't trying to find downside break evens. I was just trying to find something that was a reasonable price away from the actual stock price that I would feel comfortable.
Okay.
So if I wasn't comfortable with 100, as a strike, if the stock was at 103, I wanted to find something that was say 90, but I wanted to see consistently how to see things that were far enough away that would make me comfortable for the period of time. And that's
Right.
what I meant by simple formulas.
Right.
And I
Okay, so that's
and
sort of like this these discounts, the 10% discount.
yeah.
So here, like a 10% discount would be the strike is less than or equal to 90% of the price,
hmm
right? And there's a 20% discount also. That's 80%. Um, Actually, what I'll also like to point out is you can put this percent sign in. I could also say 0.8, and that's those are equivalent.
hmm
I think it's just easier, so, for some people just say 80%. But sorry, I interrupted. Were you going to say something else?
No, no. I was just looking. I don't personally have any trouble putting the formulas together, but some things I was trying to use and I didn't find consistent, and I didn't know if it was a flaw in the data. It was like the dollar value of a standard deviation. I
Okay.
found that a little shaky on some of them, and I don't know if how they're being derived or if it's
Okay. Well, the
maybe.
dollar value of the standard deviation, that's another new one here. This is the formula right here. I don't know. Can you see it?
Mhm.
I'll
Yes.
highlight it. What do you mean by shaky?
The actual dollar value, if I were looking I'm just looking at something right now, and I'm looking particularly. I'm just trying to think. I would like to do a. You know what? Show me what's at the top of your list and slide over. In other words, let's use your screen rather than mine because I'm looking at something
Okay.
and it isn't the same as what you'd be looking at.
Okay.
So you pull up IBM. If you just put the blue across it,
Oh, okay. So
you know what I
here's
mean.
an
Just click on that. There was an IBM there.
yeah.
Okay, so go all the way across to looking at the dollar value.
Okay.
Um, yeah, of the standard deviation.
Right here because the
And,
implied volatility is only zero point 0.6.
okay, because I was going to say it's definitely not 34 cents. So they're doing it with the implied volatility.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm just having trouble working with those numbers.
Okay. I mean, it's derived from the implied volatility of the option. I mean, that's what the if you look
Okay.
at the help screen, right? So
Yeah.
you take the stock price and you multiply it, by 1 minus e to the minus sigma. Then sigma is the standard
Standard
deviation,
deviation.
right?
Right.
And so this option, I mean, this is ridiculously low priced because um, you know
What's the
the
IV
points.
percentile? I'll show you that. Yeah.
The point. Well, the IV percentile is um,
It's going to show you
for
whether
the
it's high or
composite
low.
IV. Excuse me.
Right. Oh, I'm just mumbling to myself. It's going to show you if you're looking for something like I trade spreads, and a lot of time I trade wing spreads. So I'd be looking for something that had a very high IV percentile because it's long
Right.
Vega.
Right.
So I'm sorry, I was short Vega, and you'd want to find things that way. But I think it's just me getting used to the columns. I didn't mean to interrupt and kind of
No, that's
take over
okay.
so much. But yeah, I just need to get used to all the different formulas and how
Hmm.
I can best put them in. The basics, I think I've got a grasp of, but some of the others, it needs probably just a little more work.
Yeah. Okay. So actually, what I wanted to, while we were talking about the DBE sigmas, so okay, so you want the DBE sigmas to be greater than 1, but you also want it to be, like you said, you want it to be something reasonable. Um, so you can also say that you want DBE sigmas to be, less than, 2.5, let's say. Okay, so that filters out all of those ridiculously high ones, and that also got rid of that IBM one that we were just looking at,
Right. Mm-hmm.
right? Um, so now we're down to 1800. We haven't really done a lot of work, and then we're down to 1830, from 13,000. Um, so kind of the way I develop these filters is just by doing just exactly what we're doing here. Coming up with criteria that I think are reasonable. Um, so another thing, let's say I want the put price. Um, I want it to be greater than 50 cents because I want some meat on the bone. So actually, one other thing I like to do is put each of these criteria on a separate line. Just I think it makes it easier to read. Actually, that one we can leave on the same line since it's the same field. And put that over there. Okay, so I want the put price to be 50 cents. Another good criteria is the IV percentile, as you were pointing out. Um, IV percentile greater than, let's say, 50th. And actually, what I
If
want to
you,
do is show a different way to do that. So now we're down to 172, right? We've whittled this list down pretty quickly, even though we're doing a lot of talking here. So now I use the IV percentile, and I just picked the 50th percentile, just for the heck of it. What I also like to do is on the dashboard, and somebody asked a question about the percentile histogram. Um, this change in color here is where the median or the mean, is it the median or the mean? I don't remember, this distribution is. And so this number is going to change every day. And so, expensive is kind of relative. Yeah, things over the 50th percentile are expensive, but you've got, a whole bunch of other things that are expensive relative to where they've been, over the last 600 days. So you can actually use, there's a variable called the mean percentile in there, and that will change every day as the market changes. So I can just highlight that 50, and here's this mean IV percentile. So now I have something that's dynamic and will change with the market, and that's probably going to actually give us a few more. Yeah, so we went up to 362 because we lowered that level. Um, now I just also wanted to show the list feature, because one of the things I also don't want to do is sell options that are coming up to you know coming up with earnings in the near future. Um, so there's a function called enlist, and if I click in the help, that's enlist. Okay, so it added the enlist and give me the list name. So I can highlight that, and I want to use the 2014-04 earnings. Okay, so that's going to tell me things that are in that list. But what I really want are things that are not in that list. So what I can do is wrap that in a not function, and now it's going to give me things that are not in that list.
Great.
Okay.
Excuse me, I don't want to interrupt your thing, but I just want to make it clear to everyone. In looking at that list, if you don't type the name of the list exactly, I kept forgetting to put a space in between the 04 and the earnings,
Yeah.
and it came up an error.
Right
If
here.
you pull that back to the 4, yeah, you'll see,
Yeah.
and then apply.
Right. But it tells you
Right.
that that it's not a known watch list.
So my only point is, yeah, you want to make sure you get it exact
Right.
because you drive yourself crazy trying to figure out what the syntax error is.
Right. So another new kind of feature that's going to be added soon is, um, while you're typing in here, it'll start making suggestions of and then allow you to just do what they call auto completion. I guess you can see that in word processors. A lot of word processors will, if you start typing a word, it'll come up with suggestions, um, or actually text. Like I know on my iPhone, if I start typing a word on when I'm texting, comes up with suggestions for the word. So it's sort of like that. And then for enlist, it'll, when you start typing, it'll come up with suggested, or the list of names that you can use. I think that'll be helpful. And again, if anybody has an idea of something that would be helpful for the filter formulas, please let me know. And I want to make it as easy to use as possible, and while keeping the flexibility. These formulas are very flexible, but there's this, the downside of that, I guess, or the price you pay for that is it's a little bit complex. So, but we'll keep trying to make it easier. Um, so now I'll click the apply again, and I'm down to 343. Now, another thing you can do. Now, remember, I created that other list, that workshop one list, filter formula workshop one. That was kind of a long name. Um, that has things that have already announced in the April cycle. Oh, by the way, while I'm thinking of it, these earnings lists, they go from expiration by expiration cycle. So that's why you have some March dates in here. So the April earnings cycle goes from the March expiration to the April expiration, and the March one, yeah, will go from the February expiration to the March expiration. Um, oh, that's not sorted. There we go. So the last one in that is March 21st, and then the first one in here is the 24th, which was this past Monday. Okay, so I can also say, well, I want to exclude things that are in that list But I also want things. I want things that are in the other list. My filter. I should have named it something that was easier to remember here. What did I call it? Filter Formula Workshop 1. See, here's where I could use that auto completion. Okay, so now this criteria, what I'm going to do is add an or uh, an or test. So I want it to be not in this list or in list uh, filter formula workshop 1. And then I need another parenthesis here. Okay. Oops. See, I'm not so good at this. Okay, let's make it easier to read here.
I say with the list follow the comma. I mean the or.
Oh, yeah, there you go. There's no comma there. Okay. Because that's the end of the filter. There you go. You should be doing this one. Okay, so that didn't really filter this down too much more, but so there are other criteria we can put in there. Um, so let's see, what else can we um, uh, days less than 45, dB sigmas, put price, IV percentile, enlist. Oh, I like to use the annualized expected return. Let's say greater than 15%. There we go. I cut about half of them down. Okay, so I won't go through the whole thing, but so that kind of gives you an idea of how to go about building the formulas. And you can another thing you can use is any field that's on the option profile. In this case, the equity ETFs you can use in that filter formula as well. So another thing that I like to do is use total volume. I'll just put it up here. Total volume greater than 1,000, because I don't want to get into something I can't get out of. Okay, so we're whittling it down more. Um, okay, so I won't bother going through all these other things. So if anybody has a question,
Hey,
please
Craig,
speak up.
question. I think
Sure.
at one point you said there was a set of starter filters, and I'm
Yes.
wondering, do you maintain a reference or a list somewhere so someone could check to see that they have those?
Well, they're added to your account when it's created. So when you sign up, you get these discount ones, this DVSD. I think. Well, actually, anything that's in this user account, this is where they're derived from. Um, so you should see this Mac recommendations. This is the one that Larry uses, and then he does some other filtering for earnings afterwards. Um, but this is the one that he uses for his recommendations.
Okay,
So
so how many are there?
how many starter filters are there?
Yeah,
There should be 11.
so you should have 11 that look something like this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, not 11 naked puts. I mean, we added this filter formula workshop 1 filter, but there are filters for the option profiles and all the spread profiles. So straddle buys. I'm not a big straddle guy. I just came up with this kind of filter for that.
Okay. So I was thinking would be useful if you had a list somewhere on your support site so people can kind of verify that they have the starter set.
Okay, sure, I can do that. I mean, you should have at least a couple. Well, here's a calendar spread filter, and then this actually should be updated with this. I should probably do the '04 earnings. Oh, someone also asked about creating and saving filters. You don't need to do anything to save it. As you notice, I was typing and I never hit a save button. There are no save buttons. Everything gets saved automatically as you type it. There's a few second delay in some cases, while so you can type a bunch of stuff and not you know spray stuff all over the internet. But everything you type gets saved, and if there was a problem saving it, it would pop up an error and tell you that there was a problem saving your filter. So you don't have to do anything. As soon as you create one, it's saved. And actually, when you create it, um, the fact that there's a red X here that you can use to delete it means that it was saved. Sometimes there's a couple of second delay between when you hit add and then you'll see the red X pop up. But the red X won't be there until it's actually been saved in the Option Workbench cloud. Um, that's the new phrase for database. Um, so everything is saved automatically, and then when you make changes to the
Oh, and
filter,
one other thing
it's saved automatically. Go ahead.
and one question about the starter. Let's say you have one of the standard filters that comes with it.
Hmm.
Uh, can a regular user delete that by accident, or are they kind of disabled?
No, they are your filters, so you can delete it if you delete it. You can let me know, and I can easily put it back. Um,
Okay.
uh,
I would suggest copy and pasting them to, I use Word, but you can copy and paste them and just say what each one was.
yeah.
I did that, so that's the only reason I say it. Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't ask you. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put are you sure you want to delete this filter message there? It should have been there.
When
Okay.
you're working with any of the filters, you can easily just copy it and then paste it, give it a new name, and add it as your own, and then paste that exact filter to it, and then you can change it however you want,
Right.
and
Okay,
it'll be
that's
your
a good
filter.
suggestion. Right. So let's say. So I'm sorry. Who was
Yeah,
that
because
speaking?
I'd probably do it that way. I'd copy and paste it.
Right.
Yeah,
So
just like that.
you would use the Control C or Command C. It doesn't. Yeah. There's no
Yeah,
right
and
click
then
menu. Yeah.
Control V for
Well,
pasting
actually,
it back.
there's an easier way. If you just click the copy icon, now you have a copy of that filter.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and it's
Never saw
brand
that
new.
one.
And and then if you want to delete it, oh, see, it does say, "Are you sure you want to delete?" I thought I put that in there. Okay, cross that off my list. Okay, so now it's gone. Oh, what happened? Oh, there it is. Okay. So that's an easy way to copy. I mean, this copy icon is all over the place when you want to copy something. Okay. Okay. I guess if there are no more questions, then I'll sign
Can I
off.
ask a quick? I have a quick
Sure.
question. It's not unrelated, but it's just learning how to best use all the different columns. And you put Parkinson volatility in there, which is what the high and low close.
Right.
And of a day. How is that best used? Like, how do you use it? I guess is my question.
I use it. I use it. I don't have it here. I use it for looking for gamma scalping opportunities.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Um,
And it's
so
just giving you a little bit. Is it that it's a little less brazen? You know what I mean? I don't know how to explain myself. In other words, it's almost like a little more tamed, the volatility.
well, the
Is that
Parkinson
what?
volatility measures movement as opposed
Right.
to the regular historical volatility, which measures close to close.
Right.
Okay,
And it assumes no close, if I'm correct, on the Parkinson, which doesn't really
it
matter.
just
But
goes from
yeah.
high to low. I mean, the high or the low may have been the close.
Right.
Um, there's
So
another way
primarily
to
it's the
yeah, there's another way to do that too. They call it there's called true volatility, where
okay.
it looks at the pre that takes into account gaps. So
Hmm.
so if something gapped up, which would mean
Right.
that today's low is higher than yesterday's close, it would use
Hmm.
yesterday's close as the low and today's high to as for the Parkinson calculation. Okay, and
Okay.
then and then if something gapped down, which would mean today's high is lower than yesterday's close, it would use yesterday's close as the high for the Parkinson calculation. But
Okay.
I haven't put that in there yet. But anyway, so the Parkinson is there to tell you if the intraday movement, because that's what you want for gamma scalping. You want a lot
Right.
of movement intraday is greater.
Hmm.
How it is relative to the day to day move.
Right. Right. Okay. Which is again appropriate for gamma scalping or something.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
delta neutral type of. Okay. Last question is pricing sheet. You had mentioned it earlier,
Hmm.
and my question is, you were going to include open interest,
Right.
but is it a static sheet? Because you had talked one time, excuse me, I've had a cold, but you have talked one time about it being updated every 15 minutes or 20 minutes. I'm not sure you were referring to this page, and I just wanted to ask, is it a static page, and is it expected to remain that?
No, no, no. It should update during the day. I mean, that's one of the new features in 3.0 in version 3
Okay.
is that it updates during the day.
I haven't given it enough attention. I didn't
Yeah.
know that it did. That's a good thing to know. Thank you.
Right. So and actually, I mean, here you can see there are two aspects of it really. It's one is the prices update. So this is the close of SPY today, and
Hmm.
the volume numbers will update as the day goes on. And then the open interest will be next to volume, in one of these cells here.
Right.
And another thing that it does is, so right now everything is priced for, as of the close of business today. That's the March 26th at 4 p.m. Tomorrow morning it's going to say the 27th at 9:30, right? And then as the day goes on, the time updates. So all the numbers are calculated for fractions of a day. All the implied volatility in the Greeks, and I mean
Hmm.
that's really it's important on expiration day. You can really see how it affects the time decay
Right.
on the expiration day. So you have intraday time decay in this version.
Huh,
And
I
that's
may be
coming
thinking.
from the Macmillan data source, and you can
No,
also
no,
have.
no, no, no. I've hooked up to a data source. You get 15-minute delayed quotes with your base subscription now,
Oh, okay.
and you can upgrade to real time if you want real time quotes.
Oh, okay. So 15 minutes is part of the regular subscription.
Yes, and that that includes everything. So if let's say you were doing some kind of spread analysis, let's just say we're bearish, so we're gonna buy a put vertical on the spiders. Um, Pick something that's a little bit further out. I have no idea if this is gonna work. Uh, let's say we can do it at the mid. Okay, so all these numbers up here are based on what the price is right now. But during the day, when the prices are updating, all these numbers will update as time goes on. Right.
Hmm.
So we put this in as the mid price, um, but if so, it's going to update as each option bid and ask changes. That mid price will update. If you put in a limit order, it'll keep it as your price. But the underlying will change, so that's going to change. That'll change your implied volatility, your IV factor, and all and so on.
Okay. So if you go to a live data source, like is it Tradier you're using?
Well, if you have an account at Tradier, then you can access real time data from them at no extra cost. I mean, my
Yeah.
real time it costs like 10 or 15 bucks a month. I might be able to actually lower it now, but I'm negotiating with my provider. But if you have an account at Tradier, then you can
Yeah.
access real time data through them for for no extra cost because they provide it
And you
for
can
you.
hook it into this.
Yeah, it'll hook up automatically. When
Okay,
you
and this data up here would be refreshed in real time, or do you have to do something to
No,
refresh it?
no, it'll be real time because
Oh, okay.
if you have an account with Tradier and
Yeah,
you enable
so
it.
I have an IB account. Is it gonna? You said you were missing certain data from IB.
Well,
Is that
yeah,
gonna
IB doesn't. You can't get volume data on the
Okay.
on an individual option level, a volume or
Uh-huh.
open interest. So I want to add open interest, um, but you'll be able to execute through IB. You can get the bid and ask price, but they're not publishing. I mean, you can see it on Trader Workstation, but
Yeah.
they don't publish it in their to external programs.
Yeah. Well, you probably want to look at Trader Workstation anyway, because if you're getting ready to put on a trade, you probably want to make sure the platform is matching what Option Workbench says, right?
Um, yeah, probably.
At least that's what I always think.
It's the I mean, if you're putting in a limit order, you really can't make a mistake. Excuse me, I just had to clear my throat. If you put in a limit order, you know you know you can't really make a mistake unless you put in something ridiculous. But
Well, you can always make a mistake.
yeah, that's true. That's true. I've made
It's just a
mistakes.
matter of what you're going to check before you do it,
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, when you enter an order, it'll always ask you. Let's say I'm going to do this. So here's how I'll go. I click my shopping cart so I can add the order. So it tells you what you're going to do, right? Right. So I want to sell to open, buy to open for a net debit of 312 in my it would say your IB account or your Trader account, and then it gives you a confirmation. Is this really what you want to do? And it's it won't do it until you click the finish and say okay. So I'm trying to make it hard to make a mistake because I've made mistakes and put in the wrong order
Yeah.
and then had to back it out and
Oh, haven't we all?
cost me money.
Yeah, I think it's more confusing now with all the weeklies, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. You got
sometimes I'll
weeklies,
go,
and then you have now the some of the stocks have the mini contracts.
oh, yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I
it
made the
is.
mistake one time. I went to put on a position. I went, oh shoot, I have the weekly, not the regular expiration.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, if there are any questions, you don't have to ask about filter formulas. I'll leave it open to other questions.
I'm just, I want to be clear on what you just were talking about.
Okay.
So if I take a spread profile, like a calendar spread, and
Right.
I pull it up and I then put it in the strategy, analysis tab, it is now, before it was updated from last night, but now I'm seeing everything pretty much,
Yeah.
as it is within minutes or so. So it went from being static to, being dynamic more or less.
Correct. And actually,
I,
what happens? So the okay, you can go to you since you mentioned a calendar spread. I'll bring up a
Yeah,
calendar
I didn't
spread.
I didn't realize that. That's a
Yeah.
real, a light coming on.
Yeah. Well, let's find something that looks interesting here. I don't see anything that looks interesting. Um,
Yeah.
okay, whatever. Okay, RH. I don't know what this is. So let's say I want to do this. So this so the short bid. Oops.
pull up your short IV factors, bring them all the way up, and then see what's the skews are
Well,
looking
what
like.
I
That's
want
what
to
I
point
do.
out is that yeah, these prices are as of last night. Okay, so this one is
Right,
9:30, so there'd be 640 would be the price of this one. Okay,
right. But
but
if it
when
was
I
daytime, when it hits that strategy
well,
analysis, it's as of that minute
right,
or within 15 minutes or whatever it is.
right,
Yeah,
right.
I didn't get that until just now.
Now you see, okay, did you see it change? See, it says 660 here. Here, let me
Yes.
do that again. Because what it did was it said, okay, this is it put it in as a market order. All right, so the price here is 640, 930 minus 290. So I'll click on it again. See, it says 640. Oh, now it changed to
Mhm.
660, right? Because what happened
Right.
was the spread analysis looked at the pricing sheet and said, oh, there's an update because
Mm.
now this spread would be 660 um,
Yeah.
at the end of today, right?
Yeah.
Because
That's
the
great.
calendar was at the end of yesterday, so the strategy zone is always as of previous day close.
Right.
So if we could put this on it for at 6:40 this morning, we would have made 20 cents today on this trade.
Yeah. That's uh, that's great. A real light bulb came on in seeing that. I had been doing something a little backward to, I was looking at the trade and then putting it on something else to analyze it, and I could have been doing it right there,
Okay.
analyzing it live. But that's just as close.
Yeah. So and here's that copy icon again, just since I'm here. So you see now it made a copy of it. So let's say we want to see the difference between market and mid. We can compare the two of those. It's just one thing you can do in comparing these things. Okay. All right, then I guess we'll wrap it up, and I'll get the recording posted tomorrow, or by tomorrow, and I'll send out an email. I'll just send out to everyone that says the first workshop is recorded. Okay.
All right.
That's
Thanks,
really
Greg.
useful.
All right.
Excellent.
Thank you all for
Thank you,
coming.
Great.
Craig.
Thank you.
And if you think of any other questions that you might have forgotten, just drop me an email, and I'll be happy to answer.
All right. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you
You
very
bet.
much.
Thank you.
Good
Okay.
night.
Great job.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yep. Bye bye.